Dad laughed. No wonder you're still single at 31. I smiled, steady, and said, Actually, I've been married for 3 years. You just weren't invited. The dining room froze. My mother's hand trembled, and the family photo she always kept on the sideboard slipped, clattering against the tiles. The glass cracked like a small thunder, its frame splitting our faces apart, my childhood smile trapped beneath the fracture. My name is Rachel. I'm 31. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Have you ever had your own blood mock you so publicly, as if your life were their punchline? Let me know in the comments. The silence stretched, heavier than the roasted chicken cooling on the table. My brother cleared his throat, half amused, half confused. My aunt's eyes darted between us, as if she'd walked into a theater mid-scene. Dad leaned back, smugness fading into disbelief, his wine glass trembling just slightly in his hand. I studied their faces, each expression unraveling like poorly sewn seams. For years, they'd told me I was incomplete, unfinished, that without their approval my life was lacking. But here they were, caught uninvited to the one chapter one had kept for myself. The cracked photo at Mom's feet shimmered under the chandelier light, shards reflecting tiny versions of me. And for the first time I realized I wasn't the broken one. They were. The fracture on the floor wasn't just glass. It was proof. No one moved to pick up the photo. The frame lay there, sharp edges catching the chandelier glow like teeth. My mother finally bent down, but instead of lifting it, she just stared at it, whispering, 3 years, as if the number itself betrayed her. Dad broke the silence. You're lying. His voice was low, but the denial was quick, like a shield he didn't want anyone to test. My brother chuckled, filling the air with nervous laughter. Come on, Rach. Married? To who? A ghost? I wanted to answer, but I let the quiet linger, the same quiet they'd forced on me for years. Silence had always been my prison. Tonight it was my weapon. The air smelled of rosemary and garlic, but all I could taste was metal, bitter against the back of my tongue. My hands rested on the tablecloth, steady, while theirs twitched, fidgeted, tapping forks against plates they hadn't touched. My aunt leaned forward, voice softer than the rest. Rachel, is this true? She sounded almost hopeful, as if believing me would free her from something too. I nodded once. No smile this time, no explanation. Just truth. Dad slammed his palm on the table, rattling the dishes. Don't play games. If this is real, prove it. The chandelier swayed from the vibration, sending fractured light across the cracked photo at Mom's feet. And in that trembling glow, I realized the night wasn't about my secret anymore. It was about theirs. The demand for proof hung in the air like smoke. Dad's glare pinned me, but beneath it I saw the flicker of fear, the kind of fear that only surfaces when control starts slipping. I reached into my bag. The zipper's rasp felt louder than the ticking clock on the wall. Every pair of eyes followed my hand as I pulled out a small envelope, edges softened from being carried too long. I placed it gently on the tablecloth between the untouched plates. Mom's lips parted. What's that? Evidence, I said. I slid the contents free. A wedding photo, a certificate, the faint scent of pressed paper. In the picture, my hair caught sunlight, my dress simple but radiant, and beside me, his arm around my waist, his smile steady, was the man they never asked about, the man they never wanted me to find. My brother laughed again, though this time it cracked mid-sound. You staged this. Photoshop. That's what this is. Mom leaned closer, fingertips hovering but not daring to touch. The photo reflected in her eyes the way glass shards had minutes earlier. Dad stayed still, jaw locked. He wasn't looking at the picture. He was staring at the marriage certificate, the embossed seal glinting under the chandelier light. For years, they'd sworn I was unworthy, incapable of building a life beyond their shadow. Yet the proof sat before them, undeniable, uninvited. And then Dad muttered, almost to himself, This ruins everything. His words, this ruins everything, sliced sharper than the broken glass on the floor. Not this changes everything, not this surprises me. Ruins, as if my happiness were some weapon aimed at him. Mom finally touched the photo, fingertips trembling. Her voice cracked like the frame. Why didn't you tell us? I swallowed. The answer was simple. Because you never asked, and because you would have destroyed it. The room tensed, chairs creaking as my brother leaned forward. Destroyed it? What are you even talking about? You think you're so important. I met his stare. You remember when I got that job offer in Chicago? When my savings vanished overnight. He smirked, as if ready to twist the knife. Yeah, Dad said it wasn't right for you. Said you weren't ready. I breathed out slowly, heat rising from my chest. It wasn't Dad. It was you. The transfer showed your account number. The table erupted, forks clattering, my aunt gasping. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's eyes darted to my brother, whose smirk slipped into a snarl. The cracked photo at her feet reflected it all, my father's fury, my brother's guilt, my mother's disbelief. For years, I thought the fracture was mine. Tonight, I saw the truth scatter in every shard. The envelope between us wasn't just proof of my marriage. It was a mirror, and they couldn't stand their own reflection. My brother's face flushed red, veins rising at his temples. You don't know what you're talking about, he spat, but his voice wavered, breaking against the weight of the silence that followed. Dad turned on him, low and sharp. What did you do? The tension crackled louder than the chandelier's hum. My brother tried to laugh it off, but his fingers drummed against the table in a frantic rhythm. It was just money. She wasn't going to do anything with it anyway. Mom gasped, her hand tightening around the fractured photo frame she'd finally picked up. The glass bit into her palm, but she didn't seem to notice. You stole from her. I leaned back, letting the words sink in, letting them fight each other with the truth I had carried alone for years. The motif of silence returned, only now it belonged to them, not me. That job was my escape, I whispered, voice steady. And you buried it, just like you buried my marriage. My aunt finally spoke, voice trembling but clear. Rachel, why didn't you come to me? I looked at her, and for a moment the weight in my chest loosened. Because you were the only one who might have believed me. And if you turned away too, I'd have nothing left. Dad's fist slammed against the table again, rattling the silverware. Enough! We're not airing this here. But it was too late. The air was already stripped bare. The table felt like a stage now, every word amplified, every silence weighted. Dad's command, enough, still vibrated in the chandelier above us, but no one obeyed. My brother's jaw tightened, sweat glistening at his hairline. You think one piece of paper makes you better than us? Married, job offers, savings, none of it matters. Family comes first. Family. I repeated, the word sour on my tongue. Family doesn't steal your future. Family doesn't mock your worth. Family doesn't laugh at your life choices over dinner. Mom's eyes brimmed, torn between us. Her hand, still clutching the cracked frame, began to bleed where glass had cut into her skin. A thin red line traced across her palm, dripping onto the tablecloth. Look at yourself, I said softly. Even the photo can't survive your grip. Her breath hitched, and for a moment she seemed smaller, almost childlike under the weight of truth. My aunt whispered, almost like a decoy line to break the storm. You still wear that perfume, Rachel. The one your grandmother gave you. Her words cut through me unexpectedly. I touched my wrist, the faint scent still clinging there. That perfume had been a shield, a memory of someone who believed in me before anyone else tried to erase me. The room was unraveling. The photo, the secrets, the silence, all cracking open at once. And then Dad said the words that silenced us all. She wasn't supposed to find out. The room collapsed into a hush so deep I could hear the clock tick, each second like a gavel. Dad's words, she wasn't supposed to find out, hung between us heavier than the chandelier itself. I leaned forward, my voice calm, cutting. Find out what? No one answered. My brother shifted in his chair, eyes darting toward Dad. Mom pressed a napkin to her bleeding palm, refusing to meet my gaze. Only my aunt stared directly at me, her lips trembling as though she carried the truth but feared releasing it. Tell me, I repeated. Dad exhaled, chest heaving. The money, the accounts. You weren't supposed to see any of it. My stomach clenched, but I kept my expression still. So it wasn't just him. I nodded toward my brother. It was you too. Mom finally spoke, voice brittle. We thought you'd waste it. You were always too fragile. Fragile. The word I'd lived under for years. The label they'd used to keep me small. But glass, once cracked, doesn't vanish, it sharpens. You called me fragile, I whispered, but glass can cut too. I slid another paper from the envelope. Not just my marriage certificate this time, but the bank statements I'd been holding back. Their signatures inked across withdrawals, transfers, debts they thought I'd never uncover. The chandelier light struck the glossy sheets, reflecting back their own betrayal. And for the first time, it wasn't me on trial. It was them. The papers lay across the table like open wounds, bleeding ink instead of blood. My father's hand hovered above them, trembling, before he withdrew it as though the truth itself might burn him. My brother swore under his breath, and Mom sat frozen, her napkin stained with both glass and guilt. For years, they told me I was fragile. Tonight, they discovered how sharp fragility can be. I don't want your money back, I said, my voice low but certain. What you stole is already gone. What matters is that you can't deny it anymore. My aunt reached across, covering my hand with hers, grounding me. Dad opened his mouth, but no excuses came. The weight of proof silenced even him. I stood, the cracked photo still glinting on the floor. I bent, lifted it carefully, and set it upright on the sideboard where it had always been. But now its fractured glass told a new story, one of broken illusions, not of me, but of them. I don't need this family's approval to live my life, I whispered. I never did. Mom's eyes filled, and for once she didn't try to argue. My brother turned away, jaw tight, refusing to meet me. Dad looked older than I had ever seen him, smaller beneath the chandelier's fractured light. I walked out, envelope in hand, the perfume of my grandmother still clinging to my wrist like armor. And with each step, the silence followed, not heavy anymore, but free.